In this video, we're going to talk about Vaxart. The stock recently went through some very significant price action movements, and there have been events from both the market at large and the company in particular that should pique our interest. Vaxart is a pharmaceutical startup with an emphasis on developing medical solutions to be orally administered. This can be a potential game changer because there are many people who either live too far away from a medical facility or don't like the feeling of getting poked by a needle. These inconveniences don't exist with what Vaxart is proposing. This is why the company's value proposition is so appealing to many investors. The stock price reached a peak of $23 at one point, and after some seemingly disappointing results, its stock price fell several cliffs to almost a third of where it was back in early February. Since then, the stock had a lot of downward pressure, especially since the overall market tendency was to shred off exposure to risk and growth stocks in general, especially considering the erratic movement of the stock market over the past 12 months. But recently, the price of Vaxart jumped by almost 40% within a day, because the company decided to host a presentation on the impact of what we call the T cells generated by what Vaxart is proposing. This announcement has really excited the financial market at large because it's perceived as a demonstration of strength to show that its product has the capacity to fight off the disease, even if its angle may be different compared to conventional solutions. Personally, I perceive this as an effort by Vaxart to better communicate the benefits of its current developments to counterbalance the lack of efficient and effective communication a few months ago. I think that this is an excellent news. At this point, Vaxart probably began to understand that the communication of the right message is at the very least as important as the actual substance of the message. I think that this is an excellent news. At this point, Vaxart probably began to understand that the communication of the right message is as important as the actual substance of the message. This time, the presenter of the webinar is Dr. Mark Davis, the director of Stanford Institute of Immunology, Transplantation and Infection. He has extensive experience in this field, and I believe that his presentation will send the right message and signals to the market regarding Vaxart's future. So that's the gist as far as the company's recent fundamental goes. Now I want to talk about the trading aspects of the stock. There are two things that are very important. The first one is risk, and the second one is volatility. We've all seen the kind of risk that holding too many shares from the same company can do to our portfolio. Essentially, many of us have been holding the bag for some time and have been wondering what to do. At first, there's a great story, then the stock may be overbought and then collapses, and the buyers are left holding the bag. Now that the stock has risen back to the level unseen since February, my suggestion for the investors is to first reconsider how much exposure do you want to have in Vaxart before thinking about how much profit you want to make by holding it. Personally, I would control my exposure around 1 to 3% of my portfolio. If the initial position were too high, then now may be a good time to reduce the exposure without incurring losses. The second aspect is volatility. Vaxart is actually the second company within the same field that displays this characteristic. It is very reactive to the surrounding market condition and any update and latest development regarding the company's products in particular. The other company is Bionano Genomics. I think that this should definitely be part of our considerations when it comes to choosing the stock to invest into and determine when would be a good moment to buy the stock. I think that if you're more of a risk-averse type of investor, you should probably minimize your exposure in the stock and choose to sell your position before any major company news, because it can really go both ways. If you're an investor with very high risk tolerance, then the same principles would still apply, with the exception that if you control the size of your position well, then you can afford the luxury of holding the stock for a longer period of time to wait till the company blossoms. As far as Vaxart goes, I believe that they are still at least 1 or 2 years away from fully growing into an auto-sufficient company. In the meantime, there can easily be at least a couple more significant price corrections down the road. If your risk tolerance is high enough, then you should definitely consider buying Vaxart. Even with the price spiking now, the company is still quite cheap compared to many other peers in the sector, as well as its own peak just 2 months ago. Thank you for watching. If you like my content, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.